So welcome to Mecklenburg County's 7 R's of waste reduction. This presentation was actually created after doing the Recycle Right presentation so many times, and people were asking for more. Now that I know that I cannot recycle these other things, what can I do about them? And so we created this presentation. Our goal here is to reduce how much is going to the landfill. That's a lot of what recycling is reducing how much is headed to the landfill. And there are a lot of other ways besides recycling that we can reduce that waste. So this is presented by our Mecklenburg County waste reduction educators, myself, Walker Spruill, and my coworker, Maitri Meyer. So before we get into what you need to do with the materials that you have as waste in your house, we need to talk about producer responsibility, because there is a lot of action that is happening before you even get to have that material in your hands, and whether you even have a choice about what material, what packaging your products come in. And so really, when we look at producer responsibility, it is putting the onus on the people making the products, because if we look at the process before it even gets to you, there is extraction of materials, transportation, processing, transportation, packaging, transportation, marketing, selling to you, and now it's finally in your hands. So yes, there's more that happens after that, but recognize there's a lot more that happens before. And so this is where we say it's not just on you. It's about how do we reach out to those producers and let them know, I want better. I demand that you put the materials in more recyclable packaging and accepted materials in my community. So if you're not happy with what you are seeing with your waste, let the manufacturers know. And then we're going to do a quick overview of our 7 R's of waste reduction before, and then we're going to get into them in a very detailed way. So first we have rethink. Do I even need this item in my life anymore? Then we have refuse. Can I refuse products? Often free things, like at the Earth Day events recently where everyone was handing out free items. Can I refuse things like that and bags at the store? Then we have reduce. Can I reduce how much I'm consuming? Do I really need all of these materials, or can I reduce it down to just 1 or 2? Next, we have rot or compost, our food waste. Then we have reuse, which is reusing something in its original intended purpose. So can we focus on reusing rather than those single-use items? Next, we have repurpose or upcycling of products that might be waste, but can be used in a new way. And then finally, we have recycle right, because we know it's not recycling everything. It's only recycling what goes in that bin. And we know that there could be 15 R's, we know, but to simplify it, these are our 7 to kick us off here in reducing waste in Mecklenburg County.
Excellent. So now we're going to go into more detail of the first 3 R's. These first 3 are all tied together because they happen before you have the product or item in your hand to dispose of. So the first one is rethink your consumption. Stop and think about your waste generation before you buy anything. Do I really need it? Can I use something I already have? Can I make it at home with less waste? What forms can I buy it in without packaging or less packaging? Are there any refill, bulk, or bring your own container type options? so that I don't have so much, as Walker said, single-use packaging items? And then can I contact those manufacturers to influence their packaging options in the future, or even ask them to create zero packaging options? Most importantly, make sure you rethink single-use disposables. That is one of our biggest challenges right now, are things that we use only once. The second R is refuse unnecessary consumption. Can I refuse the packaging and still get the product that I need and want? Always try to refuse single-use and disposable packaging, like the plastic straws and the containers. Try to bring your own cloth bag. This is one of my favorites. Can I buy the ice cream in a cone instead of in a dish with a plastic spoon? Can I dine in instead of takeout? We know during the pandemic, this was a little bit more challenging, but a lot of places are opening up. The weather is improving. You can eat outside safely. Is there a way that I can get that product in a zero waste form? If I Google zero waste shampoo, zero waste homemade cleaning products, are there ways that I can buy the things that I need without the plastic bottle? So that is refusing the packaging. The next thing is, if I do need something, is there a way that I can buy less of it, or the same amount but less often? Or can I buy the items with less virgin materials that are being extracted and going in? So can I buy something used where it's new to me? Can I repair or refurbish something that I already have? I love this example of the shoes. That is a pair of shoes that looks like it was ready for the landfill. And look what a talented shoe repair shop was able to do. Can we mend our clothes? Can we repair our appliances instead of sending them straight to the landfill to reduce our overall consumption? Again, what can I buy in bulk? And this is actually my absolute favorite. Can we buy experiences instead of stuff, so that we're buying less and we live more? I know my kids got a lot of vacations for holiday presents and gift certificates to go bowling or to do something fun that they want to do, instead of getting physical items. So can we figure out a way to spend your time and money on activities instead of stuff? So these are some high level ideas of how you can reduce your consumption and subsequent waste before you have those products or packaging in your hands to dispose of.
So now that you have an item in your hand, how can we dispose of it? So really, before we talk about can it rot, we need to say, can it be eaten? About 40% of the food produced and sold in the United States is thrown away. And in the landfill setting, it's heavy and stinky. It also produces a lot of methane, which is actually, upon release, worse than carbon dioxide, which we all hear about all the time. And so when it comes to food, let's go ahead and eat that first. But then when it comes to what we have left over, those veggie scraps, those eggshells, things like that, when they have expired, you can put those along with dry matter like leaves from your yard, mix that up, and in fact, use some shredded paper to mix that up and turn that into some high value compost that you can use in your yard. And if you don't have space for a backyard compost pile, there are other options like vermicomposting with worms. There are compost tumblers that can do composting sort of in a small setting, a more controlled setting. And then even more importantly, if you still want to compost, you can compost through a local company that will come and pick up your compost waste and leave you with a clean bin. So Compost is high value for your yard, but even if you just have a compost pile to reduce how much of that food waste is going into your trash can, then it is still a high value material. So then we have reuse. And when it comes to reusing, it's essentially how can I get the most life out of this item? So right now, everything seems to be about single use, and old habits die hard. Before you know it, your trash is overflowing. You didn't even plan on getting all those utensils, all that packaging, those bags, but it is eventually ending up in our homes. And so where can we reduce those things by reusing something else? So when it comes to our coffee cups, right? Can I bring my own? Or as Maitri said, do I have to go out and buy it? Can I bring mine with me? Then we have that to go where can I bring my own utensils? And if I am dining in, can I take my leftovers with me in my own containers? Can I refuse those utensils or that water bottle because I have my own reusable water bottle and reusable utensils? And it really is just having the habit of putting that reusable bag into your shopping bag so that it is always with you when you need it. Same thing with those utensils. Put it in your everyday bag. Keep some utensils. They don't have to be fancy like bamboo ones. Keep some real utensils in your office desk. And then you never have to use plastic utensils again. And then next we have repurpose. And this is where we're able to kind of get creative about our waste, because a lot of times it comes down to what materials do I have a lot of that now I realize are not recyclable? How can I reuse them and turn them into new things? So a perfect example is yogurt cups, since they are not recyclable because they do not have a neck and shoulders, right? A plastic bottle or jug with neck and shoulders. So with these cups, how can I reuse them for games? How can I reuse them for plants and repotting things? And this is a good opportunity to really, I'll tell you, actually, those plants, when you use the clear yogurt cups, you can see the roots growing down through that soil, and it is incredible. So just throwing that out there. But then it's not just how can I use these things that are coming into my life, but what do I need? Okay, so here's a perfect example of I need to organize some cords and wires and plugs at my house. Do I need to go out and buy a container for this? No, I can repurpose a shoebox and some toilet paper tubes or paper towel tubes and turn that into a repurposed, usable product. And then what is it that you need to fulfill around your house? Because you can DIY how to make a self-watering planter. And anytime you can reuse something and repurpose it and reduce how much you're having to get something new to fulfill a need, then you're reducing waste. And this is actually kind of a point I would like to bring in here is the idea of upcycling something. So this yogurt cup was just a cup, but it was able to be upcycled into games, upcycled into planters. A water bottle is just a water bottle and might be able to be recycled into a water bottle one time. But what if you're able to create a starter pot out of that and then reduce having to go out and purchase a plastic self-watering starter pot that has been produced with all of that excessive producer responsibility waste going on before you even see it on the shelf?
So this is a great time to be talking about upcycling. I mentioned before the official presentation started, Mecklenburg County Solid Waste is having a Recycle the Runway event this Saturday, April 30th, 1 p.m. at North Lake Mall, where high schoolers are going to compete in upcycling waste materials into fashions. So they're making ball gowns and all kinds of really interesting avant-garde fashion creations out of what we would call trash. And then they compete, and local businesses are donating funds to be given to the winning high schoolers. So please come on out on Saturday to North Lake Mall at 1 p.m. And now we're going to do a real quick summary because 100% have already participated in a Recycle Right presentation. So this is just to reiterate that it's really important to do the first 6 R's before you recycle. Recycling is kind of the last option before something is about to go to the landfill. And remember, not everything is recyclable. That's called wishful recycling. Here in Mecklenburg County, due to our current infrastructure, the machines that we have at the material recovery, the recycling sorting center, we can accept paper, such as junk mail, newspapers, magazines, cardboard, both boxboard, corrugated cardboard, cartons like milk cartons, juice cartons, broth containers, cans, metal, only if it's in the shape of a can. Glass can be any color, doesn't matter as long as it's food grade glass. We don't want dishes or mirrors or pottery or fish tanks or picture frame glass, things like that. Only food grade glass bottles and jars. And then remember the plastics. We only want plastics with a neck and shoulders, a pourable neck or spout. So those are the 6 categories of what we can accept. And I wanted to take this opportunity to go through a quick definition. So people use the word recycle kind of generically, anytime we can reuse anything. But officially, recycling means when you're turning something or when you're reprocessing something from the same product into the same product. So an aluminum can gets turned into another aluminum can. A cardboard box gets recycled into another cardboard box. Glass bottle into a glass bottle, plastic bottle into a plastic bottle, paper into paper. You get it. But we also talked about a moment ago, upcycling, where you're taking waste materials and you're creating something brand new. You're repurposing it. You're upcycling it into a brand new product that can be used. There's another term in the industry called downcycling, and that means that you're taking something like a plastic bottle and you're turning it into clothing, or plastic bags and turning it into park benches or deck lumber, or taking other plastics and turning it into carpeting. It can no longer be recycled into the same item that it was originally, but again, it's being turned into something with a new life. So there's recycling, upcycling, and downcycling. So don't forget what you learned in the Recycle Right presentation. These are the items that can be collected curbside in your recycling cart that you take to the curb, but there are several other items that can be brought to the full service drop-off centers, like your hazardous waste, your electronics, other items like that. So we always want things loose in the cart, never in bags. Please tell everybody you know, everything needs to be clean, dry, and empty. So that was a summary of the 40-minute presentation. So this is the official end of our 7 R's of waste reduction presentation. This is our contact information, just like we shared last time. Please contact solid waste at mecnc.gov. If you have follow-up questions, go on our Facebook page, share our posts there. Right now, the Recycle the Runway information is there. Please share it with others. Go to the Wipeout Waste site if you have additional questions. Take the recycling pledge. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to move on to Q&A now.
Okay, so we do have a note on here that there are people out there collecting things like used crayons. Oh man, I wonder, do y'all reach out to restaurants, like the restaurants that have little crayon sets that they give to kids? I wonder if y'all reach out or work with any of them to get those crayons that are used literally one time and then thrown away. Anyway, they collect these crayons that can then be recycled through Crayola, but I wonder too if there might be ways to melt them down. Some, I know repurposing things is actually, it takes a lot more energy to repurpose something than to recycle it. And I say that from the person who's actually doing the work. So if you're the one having to take all the paper off the crayons and put all the colors together that are going to melt down to make one big crayon block, that's a lot of energy compared to putting them in a box and shipping them to Crayola with Crayola's recycling program. So it really is about, what do you have energy to put into it? What do you want to do about it too?
So we have a question. Somebody raised their hand and would like to speak. So Walker, please repeat the question so everybody can hear.
All right. So essentially, why is it so limited what can be recycled in Mecklenburg County, especially regarding things that have that recycling symbol on them, and why aren't they being accepted? So Maitri, we'll let you answer that one.
So we did cover this a little bit in the Recycle Right presentation, and I have a short answer, a medium answer, and a really long answer that I can send you in writing if you'd like. There are documentaries, there's lots of information on this. But in short, the numbers that are on the bottom of those plastic packaging were created by the plastics industry to convince consumers that plastic is a good thing and that it's recyclable. But in fact, the numbers that are on the bottom are not reliable. They're resin identification codes, and they're supposed to tell you what type of plastic it is. So the plastic can be separated by 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. Unfortunately, they're allowed to put the number on the bottom that specific item is 51% or more of that specific type of plastic resin, which means it could be 49% of different types. And so let's say we collect a bunch of 2s that say 2 on the bottom, but they're not actually 100% 2s. And we bale them up in these 1,000-pound bales, and we sell them by the ton, by the truckload, to a plastic reprocessor. They melt down 1,000 pounds of plastic. And some of that plastic is a 2 or a 5 or a 7. Some plastics will melt the way they're supposed to. Some of them will remain solid, and some of them will burst into flames. So what happens to that melted down batch of 1,000 pounds of plastic goop? So if you'd like more information, I highly recommend the Frontline documentary. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's like 56 minutes. It's called Plastic Wars. And it will explain to you more about the plastic industry's history back to the 70s, how these identification codes were created, why they were created, and the challenges of recycling plastic. As you know, for many years in America, we just didn't deal with it. We put them on container ships and we shipped them to developing countries like China, Malaysia, other places, a lot of them in Southeast Asia, where they were either hand sorting them and trying to process them, which they could not keep up. So most of them are in big fields, or they have ended up in the oceans, and they are contaminating those developing countries. And these countries have said, we're not accepting garbage from the world anymore. We are no longer the world's landfill. Developing countries, you need to come up with your own solutions. So that's where we currently are. Anything to add, Walker?
Yeah, that was very good. That was very good. And is it just Mecklenburg County, or is it beyond? It's everywhere. The reason that we accept the items that we accept is it's what we are able to process and also get money for. This is a business and it costs money to do business, and we need to make money in order to keep the business going. And so I know we look at it as a service because it is a service, but it is a service provided that given that the business can stay in business. And so a lot of what we were putting in there was never recyclable in the first place. But because we were not having to deal with that waste ourselves, we were blind to it. And so that's why it is now so shocking that things are piling up, that things are not being accepted, is because we can no longer ship our garbage over to other countries and expect them to clean it up for us. So I do want to give an update on what we were talking about earlier with the repurposing of the crayons, is that yes, this organization does work with restaurants and get those crayons, which is just terrific. I am going to chime in here. Somebody asked if there's a private organization available for recycling the little stuff like plastic cups and such. The answer is no, because while there might be organizations that can use that kind of stuff, we need to start dealing with that waste ourselves instead of trying to pawn it off on other people. And this is where we take it back to producer responsibility. So there are a lot of big corporations that are creating this specialized recycling, maybe the kind where you ship off the materials to recycle because they're not accepted where you are, or they are doing a gimmicky kind of refill from a corporate standpoint, instead of them just investing the money in supporting local recycling systems so that we could recycle more. We could recycle those materials if we had a couple of things going right. If we had different machinery and more funding, and that funding could potentially come from these number one plastic producing, plastic waste creating corporations that create certain sodas out there. But instead of investing in the infrastructure, they are instead putting the onus on you to go out of your way to reduce how much waste you're putting out there, when really they're creating 1,000 times more waste than you could even create in your lifetime. And so are there organizations out there that could use these things? I'm sure there are, but everything needs to be totally clean. In order to repurpose a to-go container, in order to give that to, say, an organization that serves people for free out in the community, we used to collect containers to do that. But the majority of containers that came to us with food left in it, we can't be dealing with your garbage. If you don't want to clean it, it's garbage. And that's okay. That's a choice. But if it's clean, then maybe it can have some more life. But don't look necessarily for other organizations to recycle these things for us, because that's really still focusing on just that last step. And I'm going to throw in here, I know downcycling sounds bad, but when Maitri talked about, there's recycling, the idea of turning it back into its same thing. So aluminum cans, steel cans, boxes, those can be recycled, glass numerous times. Plastic bottles can be recycled one time into plastic bottles again. So the idea of downcycling, the fact that we can use that recycled plastic and turn it into the carpeting instead of having to use prime virgin oil to make that carpeting, that is a way of reusing and repurposing that material. So downcycling sounds like it's maybe a bad thing, but think of how much more life is going to come out of that carpeting than is going to come out of one more plastic bottle.
One, just like we said at the beginning of the Recycle Right presentation, we are not here to shame you. We are here to educate you and empower you in anything you can do to to improve this situation is fabulous. It's not our fault that the things that we want and need come in these packaging. I use styrofoam once in a while when that's handed to me. I definitely use plastic, and if I like didn't quickly refuse it. So we do the best we can, but that's why contacting these organizations is so important to say, I love your product. I hate the way you package it. Stop it.
Right.
That's it.
And that goes for small businesses as well as the large corporations, but make sure that when you're doing it, we're doing it in love and appreciation, that I really do love your product, because they're going to be a lot more receptive to our message if we're coming at it from a positive place rather than attacking. And I say that as somebody who has attacked way too many conversations, through way too many. And we're learning. We have to learn, right? And every day we have another chance to do better. It's not about being perfect. It's about us feeling good and feeding energy into the earth, the positive energy, and not being drained by all of this waste.
So in Mecklenburg County, this is our standard. If it's not pictured in those 6 pictures, do not put it in your cart. Do not look at the numbers on the bottom. The only way you can tell what plastic it is to have a machine with an optic laser that shoots into the side of the bottle that somehow determines the chemical composition to determine if it's 100% a category 1, a 100% a category 2, something that we can bale up by the 1,000 pounds, put on a truck, and we have somebody that will buy it from us. Right now, we pay to get rid of several of our products. And when I say buy from us, we're not making money on this. We're making like $20 a ton, and it costs us over $100 per ton to process it.
$20 a ton is a lot, Maitri.
That we make. Yeah. I mean, like cardboard right now is worth over $100 a ton. Some things are worth 60 or 80, like steel and aluminum.
Okay.
A lot, but some things are worth negative $20. We got to pay per ton to get somebody to take it from us so we don't have to landfill it.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, Maitri, because this is where we can really talk about really reducing waste. And if we focus on those really high value recyclables like cardboard boxes can be turned into cardboard boxes 7 to 10 more times. 7 to 10. So we're stuck on plastics, which are maybe being recycled once, right? But let's focus instead on all that junk mail, all those magazines, those newspapers, not the plastic bag it came in, right? Just the paper. We don't want your food waste. We don't want your food packaging that's paper, right? Give us the clean stuff. Give us those cardboard boxes. These can be recycled right here in our region. We have paper recycling processing right here in our state. So you're supporting local business by recycling your cardboard boxes and junk mail. And it's so easy to make sure that cardboard is empty and clean, right? It is so easy to make sure that junk mail that literally just came out of the mailbox goes straight into a recycling bin. You don't need to take those plastic
get off
windows
the mailing
out.
list and reduce it and refuse it so it doesn't show up in your mailbox.
Right. See, and taking it to those 7 R's. But let's really focus on putting our energy into what does the most good, because then when they get more cardboard, they're able to sell that cardboard and make more money, because right now it's in such high demand. So
subsidize the recycling of glass and things that are challenging and expensive to recycle. We'll try to put a link in the chat of where the Recycle Right upcoming webinars are, that you can look and say, okay, we do them every single month. Here's the May one, the June one, the July one, and share that far and wide. Share the do not bag your recyclables graphic that I put at the end of the presentation. We'll share some follow-up resources after this presentation, just like we did after Recycle Right. But the more you help us, there's 1 million people in Mecklenburg County, and Walker and I are trying to come up with the metrics of how many people have participated in these sessions or listened to the recordings. And it's like 25,000 over the last 2 years, which sounds like a lot, but when we're looking at 1 million people, we haven't even touched them. So we really need, if any of you belong to HOAs or faith-based organizations or professional groups or any other group of 20 or more residents that would like a Recycle Right presentation, we are happy to, I mean, we're paid by Mecklenburg County, but Mecklenburg County provides us as a service for free to the residents of Mecklenburg County. Either encourage them to come to a public one or ask us to do a private one to help get the word out. That would be so helpful.
So yeah, remember, this whole presentation grew out of, oh no, I can't recycle so much stuff that I thought I could recycle. And they're growing pains. We are all in process. We all have to deal with this, but I think part of my mission is to get people to release the guilt that we feel over the waste, because the system was built without our input, right? This was in place before we got here. But now, how do we support the system so that it can continue and improve while also making it sustainable for ourselves? Like Maitri said, sometimes you're going to have to use styrofoam. Don't deny yourself water when you don't have a reusable bottle by refusing that single-use bottle. Just make sure when you're finished drinking that water, if you can't repurpose it into something else, then go ahead and recycle it right, clean, dry, and empty. It is not on you to save the planet. It is on us to love the planet and just share love. And recycling is one way that we can share that love with the earth.
I've been telling people for 30 years, if you can change one habit per year, it's going to help us all. If you can change one habit per month, it will help us a ton.
Right.
But do what works for your household. I mean, when I had 2 little children, I used cloth diapers 75% of the time, but I used disposable 25%. There were times when it was just way more convenient.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just remembered another refuse that I ran into recently, which is when you go to hotels, do not use the little shampoo samples because no organizations here want your partially used shampoos. And typically those things come home with us and they sit in a drawer until we get so tired of them that they either explode in the drawer and spill all over everything and ruin everything else, contamination, or we just get frustrated and throw it away. So if you can, take your shampoo with you. Take your small shampoo that you refill with you and take your soap so that you don't have to use those single-use shampoos, conditioners, and hand soaps.
That's a great one. So typically people are putting 2 things in the chat and I have not seen it. So I'm going to share it with you guys just to, maybe you already know it. So one, if you have foam egg cartons or clean foam trays that maybe had a zucchini on it, not meat, but something that's totally clean. Publix grocery store has a place where it has its plastic bags where you can collect your flexible plastics, where you can take your clean foam. So that's a place, if you buy eggs in a foam container, you could take them there. Another thing is Envision Charlotte at the Innovation Barn. If you Google Envision Charlotte, they have several collection carts outside that they accept a few different things. One of the things they collect are takeout containers that are black on the bottom and they're kind of a foggy clear on top. They have to be 100% clean, like wash them clean. And they have ways to turn that into plastic filament that can be turned into new things like PPE or other prototyping type projects. So if you have some things, look at Envision Charlotte, see if they have a collection bin locally and keep it in your car. And if you happen to be near where they are, go, oh, I got some stuff in my trunk, put them in the bins.
Right. And it's really important to keep in mind that not only does all the food residue need to be off of it, because when they put it in the machine, that machine is going to churn up whatever is on that container. So if food gets into this $20,000 machine, it's a real problem. Another thing that's a problem is stickers. So if there is a sticker on that plastic container, if there's that goo that's left on there, take that part of the container and throw that away, right? If it's just on the lid, if it's just on the base, take that part off and throw that away and recycle especially recycle, take to them the containers that do not have that sticky stuff on it. Because again, that gummy sticky getting inside the machinery that's trying to churn up that plastic is a real problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you wouldn't use that container again, that to-go container, that yogurt cup, that whatever, that foam egg carton, if you wouldn't use these things again, then don't think that you can recycle it. There is so much material out there. In Mecklenburg County, we get 50 to 60 truckloads a day. And there is no lack in product out there. It is about how do we make it more efficient to process these things, because putting all that other stuff in there, it doesn't just cost money. It doesn't just cost time. It also, every time it goes through, every person who's having to reach for that plastic bag or that, whatever yogurt cup that's dirty and smelly anyway, like that is draining their energy to feed the earth too, right? Like, let's really send these things off to their best. And repurposing things, once we really get past this wish cycling, I'm a recovered wish cycler. Like, I don't even, if I question it, it's going in the trash. When in doubt, throw it out. It's better for it to be in the garbage than for the wrong thing to end up in my recycling bin. Because the cost of removing that wrong thing is so much higher than what that wrong thing could have ever brought in value. Because remember, we're talking $20 a ton on these materials. So let's stop kidding ourselves. Only plastic, if we can refuse plastic, great. If we can't, let's make sure that we are disposing of it properly. But also, let's get creative about this. This is, now that we see the waste, where can I really get creative? And, if you wonder, if there's an organization that repurposes those things or recycles them, is there a project you can do in your community that could be repurposing or recycling that material, which would ultimately educate other people that it's not recyclable? Right? It's through our creativity and sharing love about it that we get the word out there. Yes, we can get people to these presentations sometimes, right? But it's really when we experience the repurposing, we experience reusing. And as you do it more, it gets so much easier. As you focus on only recycling the good goods, it gets so easy to throw out the other stuff. That's not on you. And so, yeah, repurposing, it really does. I can't wait to see the pictures from the Recycle the Runway, because some of the pictures I've seen from past ones, you can find that at wipeoutwaste.com. You can look up Recycle the Runway and see pictures of past gowns that they've made and beautiful hats. Oh gosh, it's so elaborate. And these are high schoolers. They're the ones who are really going to have to be dealing with this waste. So let's empower them. I can't wait to get inspired by that too.
Thank you so much. Yes, we will come talk to your association. We will come talk to whatever groups you have, 20 or more adults in Mecklenburg County, and send the email to solidwaste@mecnc.gov, and we will get it scheduled and send someone in person, or we can do a virtual one. It's up to you. All right. Have a great day, everybody. I'm going to end the webinar officially. We'll talk later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.